You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Narcan. Please pick one up. URI has a load of it. Put it in your purse. Leave it in your car. You gotta take it out at night because of the heat and the cold, but it'll save a life. Narcan. My guest today is Diane Merola. And Diane is a LICSW, a clinical social worker that does a lot of work with first responders. So Diane, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about you and your first responder group, because I think it's imperative that first responders get the help that they need because of what they deal with on a daily basis, what they see on a daily basis, and what they go home with on a daily basis.
So our first responders are a very unique group of people. They willingly go into a profession because they want to protect and serve other people. Mm-hmm. And it's an innate calling that they have. What they have to respond to on a daily basis is pretty horrific. And actually they never know what they're going to respond to, but they're always there to protect and serve us. Mm-hmm. And that's a heavy job to do.
Hmm. You know, there's been a lot of horrific things for police and fire, what they see on a daily basis, whether it's car accidents, fires, drownings, etc. I don't believe that we give them the appropriate education, I use that word, or help that they may need until 9/11 came around. When 9/11 came around, wow, then the floodgates opened up to make sure that they had the resources that they needed to do their job, or when they came back from a horrific issue, to debrief, to get ready to go on the next call. So what does a LICSW and a clinical social worker do?
So provide as much help and support to them as we can. I have a special certification that helps me work with this very special group of individuals. And they are a group that, quite honestly, don't seek help. They are the helpers, and when you are a helper, very rarely do you seek help. And there's a variety of reasons why our first responders are often reluctant to seek help from someone like me.
Why?
The stigma with mental health that we still have. They fear maybe some repercussions. They feel that a lot of times they're not worthy of the help. Mm-hmm. You know, they're the ones who were running into a burning building, or they are the ones who are responding to that crime scene, or part of a SWAT team, or that paramedic, or that EMT, or that healthcare worker. So they are the helpers, and they view it as a weakness if they are seeking help. So whatever we can do to support them from a mental health standpoint, we truly need to do.
You know, you said something that stuck in my head pertaining to seeking help and weakness. But most of the chiefs in these departments came up through the ranks. So they've seen it, they've dealt with it, they worked with it, but most of the chiefs didn't have the capabilities, not the capabilities, but the issues that you provide didn't exist when they were coming up as new firefighters, or new trainings, a new whatever. So I get what you're saying, because I've had professional athletes on here, and they said that they couldn't tell management because they were afraid of repercussions, i.e. getting another contract or playing for the team any longer. So I get that, but the tide has turned. The tide has turned since 9/11. More and more firefighters, police officers, I don't know this for a fact, but you probably would. Now they're more open to talking to somebody. Is that a fact or not a fact, or is there still a lot of stigma around it?
I think some of them are more open to it, but if you look at our national data with our first responders, and that they suffer from things like post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, alcohol use and abuse. They suffer a lot of physical problems because of the job. They suffer, they don't get a lot of sleep in those type of jobs that they do. So we still have some work to go, because when you look at the national data, suicide's very, very high with fire personnel, police. So we still have a ways to go with providing them with the support they need and letting them know that there are people to help them and who won't judge them. That's the other thing.
Why do you think the suicide rate is so high? Do you think it's because of things that they see, things that they come across?
Yeah, it's all of the above. It's the trauma of the job, seeing what they see and have to deal with day in and day out.
Yeah.
It's carnage. It's like I said, they are a very special population that truly are heroes. And I know during COVID, there was a brief moment in time where we were cheering in the streets for our first responders, our healthcare professionals, our police, our fire, and then that was like a nanosecond, and then we're back to
like 9/11, same thing.
Right. We have in this country the attention span of gnats, where we remember for 1 second, and then where we forget about what they do on a daily basis. And their jobs have gotten tougher. And tougher. I mean, when we're taping this show, we're coming off of another weekend of
bad violence.
Bad violence. And then you see all of the, Monday morning quarterbacking, whether, the first responders
did the right thing.
Right. And how do they feel knowing that?
We got to take a quick break. I want to talk more about that when we come back. You're watching Recovery TV. I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages with Diane Marola.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Diane Marola is in the house, and she is a LICSW and a social worker that works a lot with first responders. Diane, thank you for coming on, and thank you for what you do. As we indicated the first part of the show, it's very much needed, especially in today's society. And we were talking about the rough weekend that we just currently had with shootings and everything else. how does somebody in your shoes handle that? I'm sure that a lot of folks call you, a lot of departments call you when there is an episode. The special training that you have, how do you go about trying to bring it all in?
So I always, in terms of my clients and people having access to me, they always have access to me. So once they get established, they always have access to me. For the first responders I see, whenever I get a referral for a first responder, they are high priority. So within me getting the referral, I will see them within the week of getting that referral. And I have them deal directly with me, and I walk them through the paperwork that they need to fill out, and then I'm able to get them started. But this ongoing violence that we have at a national level and at a local level, it is truly impacting everyone.
Are you seeing a rise in first responders looking for treatment?
Me personally, yes, I am. So I always describe myself to my clients, and they will laugh sometimes. I say I'm small potatoes, meaning I'm here in Rhode Island. I'm a social worker, homegrown in Rhode Island, didn't graduate from, as I like to say, a fancy schmancy Ivy League school. And in my small potatoes world here in Rhode Island, yes, I am getting more and more first responders. Because I have the special certification to work with them, I'm on a national website, and that's how they find me.
In your opinion, and you look at the way first responders are now, a lot more women are tackling that profession. Are you seeing your clientele like 50-50? Are you seeing it 75-25? What are you seeing?
So thus far, my client population for first responders, if they are a healthcare worker, have been female. And I would say maybe 50-50 with my clients who are healthcare workers. For police, fire, EMTs, paramedics, and correctional officers, primarily male. Those professions are still dominated by males.
So when you look at your clientele, and we had a conversation a while ago pertaining to Zoom calls, you find that the Zoom issue than the face-to-face issue is more, I don't want to use the word sensitive, but where are you seeing the...
It do person, I will do in person. If I want to do telehealth, I will do telehealth. If they want to do both, I'll do both. I meet them where they are at. I also tailor my schedule around theirs. So some first responders, for example, 7 o'clock in the morning, I will see.
Before their shift or after
before their shift or after their shift, or sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So I always tailor my schedule around theirs. And they always have direct access to me. What I do with my clients is I set up a text line. And there is no call this number, press 1, press 2, leave a message. No, I set up a special text line for all my clients, and they have direct access to me. If they need an appointment, they get one, and I make it work.
What about families?
That's huge, John. So being a partner or being a family member or being the husband or wife or son or a daughter of a first responder they're in a different category as well. These folks work long, long hours, and when they come home, they are drained. And so a lot of times our first responders are missing things like Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthday parties and soccer games and things like that. We've got a shortage of first responders now, which back in the day, there used to be waiting lists, if you remember, right?
Yep.
You and I remember the long list to be a police officer, a state trooper, a fire person. Even fire, the lists were long.
Yep.
That's not the case anymore. So what happens is, with the shortage of staff, they get held. So they make plans to, Saturday we're going to have the birthday party, 1-year-old, and these folks are young. That's the other thing. They're just starting out.
Yeah, they're babies.
They're in their 20s and 30s, so they're starting off, and then they get held. And they're making the phone call to their husband or wife, yeah, I can't be there. So a lot of times, spouses are going to things alone, celebrating holidays alone, saying, yeah, my partner had to work.
We're going to go on break, but I want to talk about scheduling with first responders when we come back. You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages with Diane Marola.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Diane Marola is in the house. We're talking about first responder working, scheduling, what they have to deal with, and what Diane has to deal with when she has meetings with these folks. So Diane, thank you again, and thank you for what you do.
And thank you for what you do.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit, we only have a few minutes left, pertaining to sports gambling. Seems to be the big thing now. A lot of people are getting calls. Are you getting calls?
I am getting calls, yeah. So the floodgates are open. Sports gambling is targeting our college kids. And so, and it's a problem. So.
Is there a problem with first responders though?
Sometimes. With first responders, I see more alcohol.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
So, obviously your plate is full. Obviously it's not going to go away anytime soon. You've been in this business for a long time. You do training for us at the Leadership Council, and I thank you for that. If you had anything to tell my viewers, what would you tell them right now?
I would say that help is available. So reach out. If you need to find a provider, the best thing to do is to, I hate to say this, but find out what insurance you have and see who is
Covering and who's not
covering and who's not covering. So that's the first step.
Diane, I want to thank you for coming on today. I greatly appreciate you coming on and giving us your expertise. My guest next week is Kai Rosen, who is with Mindset. You need to watch this show next week. I greatly appreciate the viewership. I greatly appreciate Channel 12 for giving me the opportunity. We'll see you next week.